live. So today we are doing something that is very quick and easy, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to tie it into our cupcake week that we had this week. We're making some candy melt cupcake toppers. So I'm getting my melts all melty right now, and we're gonna do some colors here. Just trying to get them all smooth. Okay. I also have some chocolate that I'm going to pop in there and start to melt down. Okay, so for our colors, I'm shaking up this oil-based purple color. And then just stir that in there. I don't want it to be too light of a lavender, that's why I give a pretty generous squeeze. I want it to be not like super dark purple, but also not too light. I'm really liking this color, so I think I'm going to stick with this one. All right, yeah, I like that color. And then we have red that we're going to do next. Once again, give it a good shake. This is also the oil-based color. For red, you have to be a little bit more generous. So I'll stir this in and see. I don't want it to be so light that it looks like pink. So that's still not as dark as I like, so we're gonna add some more red. Okay, that looks like a pretty good red. Making sure it's all mixed through. Okay, I think maybe just another 1 or 2 drops. Let's do 2 drops. Okay. Removing the spoons, we might need to pop these back in the microwave before we start using them. Had a little bit of white left on the side for the purple, so I'm just finishing mixing that through. Okay, and then our final color, but let's check on our chocolate because we probably need to pop this back in there after giving it a little stir. I started with 30 seconds. So just barely starting to get a little bit of melt at the bottom. So I'm gonna do another 30 seconds on these. Okay, and then I'm using the Rolcom Lumo Cosmo Pink to dye our pink color here. And this is, oop, more than I expected, but it'll be a nice vibrant pink. And then of course we can also add some more melts if it's too vibrant. But I don't have any of the pink in the oil-based drops, so, but I also really like how these colors pop with the powder color. But these are actually, they glow under black light, so they have a little extra surprise kind of fun thing going on. This is a really good vibrant pink. It's like very bubblegummy, so maybe I'm gonna add just a little bit more Just a little bit of white melts. Just to dilute it a little bit. Try to pop this in there and should balance out the colors a little bit, but we'll see. I'm doing 20 seconds on this. And we're going to give our chocolate melts a stir. Want to mix it through whenever you're doing anything with melts. Mix for a little bit to see how the heat carries through and finishes melting everything. If you don't need to pop it back in the microwave, if it finishes melting on its own, then that's good. If you pop back in the microwave while there's still some pieces, but you really haven't stirred much, then you can actually overheat the melts, and that kind of causes some streaks, which isn't good. Still a couple little stubborn pieces. I made like 5, 10 more seconds, possibly. Yeah, just a teensy bit more time on this one. Doing 10 seconds, and we're going to stir our pink. See if those little pieces are starting to melt down and dilute the color just a little bit. Okay, so I can tell that this definitely needs at least a little bit more time. So I'm gonna do 10 seconds on that one as well, just to make sure. Okay, and then we have our chocolate melts here, completely melted through. And we can start doing some of our molds. So I got these molds off of Amazon, and I'm looking for my offset spatula. Where did you go? Ah, it's hiding from me. Okay, so I got my offset spatula, and for the chocolate one, we're going to do our little heart mold here. So it's just a nice silicone mold, pretty thick on the sides, but it easily pops things out, so you don't struggle too much with it. And I have a little piece of silicone here. Okay. So we have our heart mold. Just mix that through. Okay. And we're going to take our melts and add them to our mold. I'm just going to fill up all the sections. Make a bunch of sizes. Of course, we could do this with the other colors as well. But I'm going with chocolate because we can brush it with some edible glitter. Okay, and before it starts to set, I'm going to tap the bottom. We can tap it on the counter, can tap it like I'm doing right here. But we're trying to get air bubbles out of there. Making sure that it gets in, like, luckily this is like the easiest one that we're starting with. So there's not really a lot of little grooves for air bubbles to get trapped, but we want to still tap it out. Just trying to make sure everything settles in there. And then we have our bowl, and we can take this and just scrape off the excess. Just kind of clean it up a little bit. For some of these molds, they're really shallow, so we need to be careful not to scrape too much. But for this one, just a nice clean across the top. Just like that. Okay, and then we can set that to the side. I usually prefer to pop it into the freezer to make sure that they are really nice and set before I pop them out of the mold. So that's probably what I'll do with all of them, just so we can make sure we can also pop them out as well. But I'm also cleaning off my offset spatula, so we're ready for our next color. Okay, let me get one of my little trays here. So I can tell the chocolate melts are already starting to set, but we're still going to pop it into the freezer. And we're going to get our pink melts out. Okay, still pretty vibrant, but I think it's also a really pretty pink. So let's see. I think I want to stick with, we have a lip mold. I think I'm going to stick with the red melts for that one. We have a fun little bow mold that I kind of want to do purple with. So I'm thinking that we're going to use the pink melts for our roses here. And also some melts, depending on the brand, you want to check to see they're nice and fluid. That goes back in there really nicely. So I don't need to add any like Paramount crystals or, I like the pink, thank you, sister. We don't need to add any like Paramount crystals or easy thin, or what I do is like a tiny bit of vegetable oil to thin it out if I need to. Again, depending on the brand, you don't necessarily need to do that. So luckily with this one, I don't need to. So it looks nice and fluid. And this one is definitely tricky because of all those little grooves. So we're just going to add some to each section. And again, wanting to work pretty fast just to make sure we start, you know, getting it on little grooves before it starts to set. Not adding too much. And we're going to tap bubbles, but also with this one, a little bit too much right there. With this one, I also like to bend it around to kind of help get the melts in all the little nooks and crannies, if you will. Plus a generous amount of tapping to get those air bubbles out as well. You can see those air bubbles coming up, but also still kind of work the mold a little bit. Getting melts all over my thumb. Pretty generous amount of tapping. You can, again, do this on the counter as well. And you still see quite a bit of air bubbles coming up. Getting those air bubbles out will make sure that it fills the mold nicely, so we actually get a good rose pattern. You're not going to have little weird missing parts because of the air bubble in there. Okay, I see the air bubbles are slowing down, so I'm going to scrape across the top here. I still see some air bubbles trapped in there. Okay. So we're looking pretty good. I can see the melts are already starting to set a little bit, so I don't want to mess with them too much more. So now I'm going to pop this onto our tray in the freezer. I set really fast in the freezer, as a reminder. I'm going to clean off my offset spatula, and we're going to proceed to our next one. I might need to lightly wrinkle the colors just a little bit because the purple and red have been sitting for a little while. Offset spatula is clean and ready to go. I think let's do our red ones next, which is going to be our lip mold. Set that off to the side. Let's see, I can tell that the outside is just starting to set a little bit, so I do want to pop this in the microwave, not for very long, maybe 10 to 15 seconds, I would say. Again, we don't want to overheat too much, so I'm doing 10 seconds to start, and here is our lip mold that we have. Oop, got a little fiber from the towel. That's the only tricky thing with silicone molds. Sometimes when you wipe stuff out, then you want to make sure that the little fibers from your dishcloth are not in there as well. So there's our lip molds, and we're ready to check our red melts. You can see they're already completely set on the spoon. Scrape that down. This actually might need just a little bit more time because I could tell that you can kind of feel it a little bit thicker when it starts to set a bit. So I think I still want to pop this in there for another, not too long, but I can definitely tell it needs a little more time. So 10, 15 seconds at the most. Okay, and then I know we're gonna have to do purple as well because that's starting to set just a little bit too, so I'll get that ready on the side. And then we're gonna do bow mold for that one. Scraping down all the sides, making sure, looks like everything is melted. There's a little bit stuck on the spoon that's not. Looks nice and fluid. I don't need to thin it out at all. That also kind of helps a little bit with adding the oil-based colors, is that it kind of thins it out just a teensy bit for you, which is nice. But our melts look good. I'm gonna pop the purple ones in the microwave like I mentioned. Gonna start with 10 seconds just to get that process started. And then just like with the other ones, we're going to go into our mold. So luckily this is not as detailed as our rose one that we just did. The rose one is definitely the trickiest one of all of them. These are also molds for like fondant. So definitely fondant would be easier, but I like to do little candy melt decorations. Okay. Let's tap our molds. Oop. Get some escaping on the side. So I'm going to continue tapping. Again, we can kind of go like this, move it around a little bit. Okay, and see I scraped a little bit too hard right there and it kind of messed up the lip just a little bit, so we can add a little bit back there. I also have a little bit of excess space on this one to kind of fill it in. Okay, they all look nice and pretty much flat. I don't see that little bump, so that should be good. We're gonna pop this in the freezer just like our other ones. Okay, clean off our offset spatula once again, and we're gonna check on our purple melts. Set our red off to the side, and then we'll be able to start demolding. just like with the red, I think we're gonna need a little bit more time on this one. So I can still, like, while I'm stirring it, feel that it's like a little bit thicker than it should be. So I'm gonna do 5 to 10 more seconds on this one because it's not as thick as the red ones were. Okay. And these, like I mentioned, are great for, the title of the live is Cupcake Toppers, but I also love to use these candy melt decorations, especially for cookie pops are fantastic. Easy ways to decorate cookie pops, as well as if you do like cake pops, cakesicles, there's any of that kind of stuff. It's just a cute little easy decoration that you can customize. Okay, this is feeling pretty good. Goes back in easily, which is what we're looking for. So now, just like with the other ones, this one is a little bit tricky because it is really flat, but same process as the other ones. Just kind of start to fill it up. You could also just pour it right over the top, but I just like to spoon it in there. You could also do a piping bag if you wanted to get in like the nooks and crannies a little bit easier. I feel like it just takes quite a bit of time to do that. So that's why I usually spoon it and make it a little bit easier. There's some cute little bows with little hearts on here, so that's cute for Valentine's Day. Okay. But like always, want to work quickly with this one because it's such a flexible mold. I'm going to hold it and tap instead of tap it on the counter. Oop. Again, we can kind of bend it around. Of course, before any of the melts start to set, if you start to do that while the melts are setting, then they're gonna mess them up a little bit. So see a couple air bubbles coming up there. Okay. Grab our offset spatula. I can tell they're starting to set a little bit, so I'm actually going to use my torch to just very, very lightly remelt the top. These ones are setting a little bit quicker than I expected. But want to keep it moving, not have it in one spot, or else the torch will burn the melts. So just carefully remove some excess. Can go the opposite way. And some of the molds, it is a little harder to kind of like clean off completely with the offset spatula. And if they're really shallow like this, then I'll just kind of leave some excess, and then just you can easily break off the excess pieces after they set. Okay, but there's our bow mold, and let's start to get our other ones out so we can start to demold them. Okay, first up we have our hearts. And like I said, these are the easiest ones. We want to just carefully peel away at the sides. Again, this is the easiest mold to work with. You can kind of break off any little excess pieces like I mentioned. But there's our biggest heart, and then can just easily pop out. If you saw the cupcake video from, I believe it was yesterday, I did a little red heart cascade. This is that mold that I used to make the little red hearts on top of our cupcake. Because it has a good amount of sizes. And this little itty bitty baby one. Okay. So there's all of our little hearts. And the reason I chose chocolate is because it's really easy to use a food brush and color it on top with some gold or silver or something like an edible glitter, basically. So, and it looks really pretty. Okay, next one. This is the rose mold. Like I said, arguably the most difficult one to deal with. So again, just start to carefully separate the sides. It can also be a little bit tricky because you're working around other ones as well. So sometimes I'll go separate on the sides around here as well. There we go. This one is always the most nerve-wracking one out of all these to demold because of all the little details. But once we kind of are carefully working it out, then we can kind of pop it out. And a little bit got stuck behind, but overall it turned out pretty good. Nice little pink rose. Oh, come on. There we go. Simple. Pretty simple once you can get used to it. And then there's an itty bitty one. So there's our pink roses. And let's grab our red lips out. I'll leave the bow in there just for a little tiny bit longer just to make sure. But you can also kind of press and you can feel they're really nice and solid. So again, carefully demold along the sides. And just like the heart one, this is a really easy one to demold. There's nice red lips. And again, you can kind of just break off those excess pieces. Love it. Thank you so much, Flora. Okay, just finish popping them out. And again, it's like such thin pieces that it's really easy just to break off these little excess bits. You can also like use the parchment paper and kind of like scrape it off to clean it up as well. And see that one's a little bit more tricky because it has like the kind of more puckering effect of it. So that's why that one was a little bit tricky to kind of scrape the back and have it be nice and clean without having it actually, you know, reveal the inside of the mouth right there. And just like, I believe we shared it on Tuesday, I want to say. One of these lips, I think it was this one that I'm holding. Either that one or this one. You can take a like large circle sprinkle. Those ones I'm not as much of a fan of just because they're so crunchy and hard for your teeth. But like a 6-lit candy is like a nice kind of like looks like a ball sprinkle, but it's not. And you can make it look like the lips are like blowing a bubble or something. So can kind of do some fun stuff with that. So those are our lips. And then let's get our purple bows out. Ooh, some Sherman lips is gonna look nice. Yes, love it. Especially if you like pop one of these on like a cookie pop and you have some cute little like X's and O's sprinkles or something, and then like a little spritz of edible glitter spray over the top of that would look perfect. I actually love that idea, and I will probably do that today. I'm actually working on some cookie pops a little bit later today, so Yes, definitely some shimmer on the lips is needed. Okay, and our final one. With these ones, because of popping them in the freezer, I forgot to mention, I wouldn't let them set overnight because they're going to, when you pop them out of the mold, and then you let them sit at room temperature, they get kind of like condensation on the outside because of the extreme temperature difference. If you let them sit overnight, they've been chilling for too long. So just keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. If you're going to pop them in the freezer, then just leave them in there for just long enough to let them set, basically, which, as you saw, are very, very quick. Just like with our other molds. Just kind of go around the edges and pop it out and clean it up a little bit. This is one of the ones I'm excited about. So we got a little air bubble right there, but it's not too bad. A cute little heart. Can finish cleaning that up in a little bit. Yeah, the purple one started to set a little bit fast, which is why we have some air bubbles, but they still look really cute when you put them on your decorations or on your cupcakes, your cookie pops, cake pops, all that kind of good stuff. This one, because there's like multiple air bubbles on this one, I would either use a little bit of the melts to kind of like add in the little air bubble spots, or I would just put it back in the melts and redo the bow if I don't like it enough. This one turned out really good. There's not as many grooves on this one. It has a cute little, looks like a little bow tie. And this one is the trickiest. Okay, I've had that one break a few times on me. So those are all of our bows. And then before we are done with our live, let's do a little bit of edible glitter on our hearts. Or at least show you how I take care of that. Brush these off to the side. Okay, let me grab my edible glitter really quick. Be right back. All right, I'll be right back. I gotta go to my office. I've been rearranging things. So I'll be right back. Okay, like I said, I've been trying to reorganize stuff, so I don't have gold with me at the moment, but I have a little bit of rose gold that we can do one of our smaller hearts with. And I always like to grab a little piece of parchment paper. Okay. Let's take one of our smaller hearts. Let's do this one. Kind of like that's like the second biggest one, but would it help to tap the mold in order to not get the air bubbles? We did tap it, but with the purple ones, the melts were setting a little bit faster than I was expecting. So that's why we had as many air bubbles as we did right there. But yeah, definitely tap it every time. You can tap it on the counter. You can tap it with like holding it and tapping like this on the bottom. So we definitely want to tap out the air bubbles as much as we can. But if the melts are starting to set a little bit fast, then it can be a little bit tricky. But we're going to take a little bit of our edible glitter and our food brush. And I like to use the fluffy food brush. And then just go all over. My favorite is the gold on top of the chocolate, but this one is also a fun, kind of different one. Just kind of pat the entire thing, making sure it's all completely covered. And like I said, you can do this with the other colors that you might have, like gold or silver. Just make sure that they are edible. And there's our little heart. I'm going to save these ones because I want to do a little bit of gold, maybe a different color too. But those are all of our decorations for cupcakes, cookie pops, cake pops or cakesicles, all that kind of fun stuff. Let me scoot a little bit more towards you. Let me know in the chat, which one is your favorite? Do you like the purple bows? Do you like the red lips? Or the, the chocolate hearts that we can turn into like really pretty metallic colors? Or very bright, vibrant roses here. I might dust these with some kind of like edible glitter. I'm kind of curious, maybe a little bit of the rose gold to kind of tone down how bubblegummy they are in terms of how bright the color is. Maybe, let's see a little bit more. The rose gold might help tamper that brightness a little bit. Or tame the brightness, I should say. Kind of add a different color. Chocolate hearts and roses are my favorite. Of course, that's my sister saying that. I knew that those would be her favorite. Okay. I kind of like how, see, it kind of changes the color just a little bit, adds a little bit of shimmeriness, and especially like highlighting the tips of the petals. My favorite, the hearts and the lips. Very good choices. I like those too. Okay. Let's see. That is it for our live today. So we're gonna stay on for another like minute or two. If anybody has any questions, they want to pop into the chats, like I mentioned. I did share a couple of cupcakes this week where I used, I believe it was one of the hearts as well as one of the lips. And yes, much better. Yes, I do like the way that that looks too. Maybe also some kind of like pearly, like iridescent kind of glitter would look really cool on top of it as well. But also, like I mentioned, I'll be using a couple of these for maybe some cookie pops because next week we're going to do Valentine cookie pop week. This week was Valentine cupcake week. And then I'm thinking that the following week, like the week actually of Valentine's week, is going to be, I'm leaning towards like a kind of cake pop, cakesicle, basically cake pop dough used in different forms for that week. So those are themed weeks for Valentine's Day coming up. And also for future lives, I have the next couple of lives already on our schedule. So if you want to see that, go to the lives tab. It'll show you the upcoming lives as well. Same time, same day. If anything changes, I will let you know, of course, ahead of time. And we're going to be doing a couple more Valentine's Day stuff. And then we'll have to figure out what else in the meantime, but also I am planning on doing a spring and Easter series per request from how popular the holiday series was during the holiday season. So, yes, I'm not seeing any more questions pop into the chat. Like I said, today is the end of Valentine Cupcake Week, and there's more stuff coming up to look forward to. I am also working on a quick cookie tutorial for Valentine's Day as well, so keep an eye out for that. No questions, so I think we're gonna end for our live for today. Thank you all so much for being here today, for hopping on and talking in the chat. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next week, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. See you guys very soon. Bye.